This is the GTN show, so welcome along. Now, there have been a couple of notable stories this week which have prompted us to tackle the rather controversial topic of cheating. But fear not, because it's not all negative, because we do have a rather interesting story of a well-known pro who's got some really impressive stats from this past weekend.
We do, and we've also got some confirmations of some of the top pros with some upcoming races. We're also going to be taking a look at some of our favourites from the Caption Comp, as well as some roundups from the weekend's race results, and taking a look at some of your photos too. Right, we're going to go straight in and attack the hard-hitting subject of cheating.
Yeah, now it is a rather negative way to kick off our show, but unfortunately it is just something that's becoming more and more prevalent in the wider sport of triathlon in general.
Yeah, we've had a few big headlines over the past week and actually the past month in regards to doping, and we're not just talking about doping within the pro field. In fact, these big headlines have come from the amateur age group field.
Yeah, so the first one that we can talk about just got released last week. It was an Austrian athlete who not only failed the test once, but he actually failed the test twice. He raced twice within Austria, local-ish, I guess you could, events, and I'm quite impressed actually that both of these events that were close within each other calendar-wise, both had testing, and that's how he's been caught out. So one was at the end of May, one was then 2 weeks later following that. He tested positive at both of them because I guess the EPO that he tested positive for was still in his system.
Yeah, now that athlete's name is Florian Leinthart, and actually he had a coach at some point that was linked with Operation Anderlast that we may remember us talking about, which was with regards to cross-country skiing and a whole, well, hoo-ha of
other
events.
sports, yes, potentially even a link to triathlon at one point we thought, but...
Yes, but yeah, so obviously that's very sad, but we've also had some announced from the ITU. Now these events actually came about from couple of months ago, but have only been announced this past week. Now, one of those was an Australian athlete, and that was Stephen Thompson. Now, he was in the 35 to 39 age group category at the, I think it was the ITU World Triathlon Grand Final in the Gold Coast, and I believe he was a runner-up and has since been proven to have been taking EPO during that.
But the sad thing about this story in particular is he was actually also a guide for a visually impaired athlete, and that I'm not sure how they did as a pairing. To be fair, we haven't seen the results, or we didn't go and find them. But regardless of that, whatever result was standing is now being disqualified for. Well, he's been banned, but his guided athlete, or that he was guiding for, has also been disqualified, which is completely unfair because it's got nothing to do. Well, we assume it's got nothing to do with him because.
But you could say aided in some way. Sad as
well,
it
I
is.
suppose what I mean is I can't imagine he knew that his guide was taking any. No. So yeah, I mean it's just not something you expect to hear about.
Yeah, horrific in that sense. We've also got Portugal's Nuno José Pereira Silva, also been suspended for 2 years based on positive tests from the 2019 Pontevedra ITU long distance world champs, also for EPO, and he was within the 40 to 44 age group category.
Which is just kind of, it boggles my mind, Mark, because I mean, of course people go to World Age Group Champs and you want to do well, but to do that well and want to get notoriety or increase social standing, whatever you want to call it, to have been drawn into the need to dope racing amateur, I mean,
there's no money at stake.
None whatsoever, and I just don't understand, coming from the way we think, why you would want to do it. There's a sliding scale of cheating. I mean, cheating is obviously cheating, but doping is definitely seen at the very pinnacle of that pyramid, but you don't have to come much further down there to start seeing the wider problems of drafting within our sport. Now that too is cheating.
Yeah,
it's against the rules.
It absolutely is, and we witnessed this firsthand at Ironman Frankfurt. We were stood on the sidelines actually trying to film part of the show. Oh my God, they're all drafting. Packs were going past, literally meters apart from each other. And now we don't need to remind most of you out there, but within Ironman racing, there is a 12-meter draft rule. As soon as you step within inside that 12 meters, you are essentially cheating. Now, we understand that a lot of people try to push the limits. They see someone at 10 meters, they go, oh, I'm going to go 10 meters as well. You're cheating. Do people just not understand the rules in the first place? So are people just entering these events and not actually realizing there is a full 12-meter drafting distance? I mean, there are race briefings that are explaining this. Are there just too many people on the course? That is widely argued for Ironman Hawaii World Championships. Maybe there's just too many competitors on this course. Are the courses just too flat? Maybe they need to be hillier to break the groups up?
Which definitely would. I mean, I can recall hilly races here in the UK. Our races are pretty hilly, aren't they, Mark? And you definitely don't see the same instances of drafting. You definitely, certainly haven't got big packs that are forming because, well, the terrain just doesn't allow it, and it's just too difficult to sit in a pack, and there's actually no benefit from being in a pack.
And of course, we have like the championship race in San Marino, which is trying to push the draft distance out to 20 meters to eliminate this. But unfortunately, people are still doing it at 12 meters, so I don't really see how increasing that to 20 meters is actually going to stop people from drafting. It's going to, if you are riding at 20 meters, reduce that drafting effect, but it's not going to stop that need from some athletes to cheat. So we're going to throw this to a poll now. So what do you think we should do about drafting within triathlon? Do you think we should extend it to a 20-meter drafting rule? Should we reduce the amount of people on course during a race? Is it actually to increase the understanding of the rules within races? Or is it actually to make courses hillier? And finally, other, which you can select by clicking in the poll just above Fraser's head up there. But now on to last week's poll. We said, do you still train indoors during your summer, even if it's just for one session per week? And 28% of you said no.
Which means that a whopping 72% said yes, which I was quite surprised at, if I'm honest. But I guess even if that's one session a week, that's still indoor training. And
yeah, I'm going to put my hand up, I'm still squeezing in the odd session indoors once a week.
Yeah, so I guess that's the reason why we've got such, but it just surprises me still, because I always think summer means outdoors. So with the World 70.3 Championships less than a month away in Nice now, and then we've got the ITU Grand Final in Lausanne just the week before that, it really feels like we're getting to the business end of the season, and with that we're starting to have various different athlete announcements in terms of them finalising their race plans, don't we, Mark?
We sure do, and we've got a very exciting one coming from Alistair Brownlee. Now, we saw him racing Ironman Ireland over in Cork, well, just over a month ago now, which he won in very impressive fashion. He's now announced he's going to be racing Ironman 70.3 Dún Laoghaire back over in Ireland, which is a race we both have experience on and very fond of, although on a slightly different course to the one we've done.
Yeah, so we haven't raced it as its newest iteration, which is with a really difficult bike course. They've changed it since we did it, and this is, we presume, partly the attraction for somebody like Alistair, especially in prep for Nice, because it's a really demanding bike course in Dún Laoghaire that they've now added, by all accounts, one of the toughest race courses in Europe, which sets athletes up really well in preparation for Nice, which is also a very hilly and demanding bike course.
Yeah, which is only about 2 weeks after, I believe. Talking of which is, we've had Sebastian Kienle announcing that he is going to be racing at the Ironman 70.3 World Champs this year, which is actually quite exciting because we haven't seen him racing at the World Champs for 70.3 for a good couple of years now.
No, but he has got lots of good form over the distance. World champion twice over in 2012 and 2013, also a couple of silvers in 2015, 2016, but as Mark says, I think he probably watched the South African edition last year and thought, wouldn't have minded being a part of that.
Yeah, it was quite exciting to watch them duking out the front there, yeah, so I'm sure he's chomping at the bit there. Now, we've got some other pro news, actually, and this is slightly different. Someone going out of their comfort zone a bit. Now, this is Joe Skipper, who is well known for being an absolute animal on the bike. Now, admittedly, he is out with a little bit of injury at the moment, so he's not fully running or running at all at the moment, but he's decided to use this time to focus on his biking, and well, he seems to be doing a pretty good job of it.
Yeah, I mean, hats off to you, Joe, because he entered this weekend the UK National 12-hour time trial championship, which...
Very big difference, 12 mile and 12 hours.
Sorry about that, Joe. He went along for 300 and how many
24 miles. Wait for it, an average power of 294 watts and an average speed of 43 kilometers per hour over 12 hours.
Which is 27 miles an hour in old money, if that helps you.
Yeah, that is going some. No surprise, really. He won the National 12-hour.
But in all seriousness, it's a really incredible achievement because, I mean, totally out of his comfort zone. Of course, as Ironman athletes used to time trialing for a long time, but there's a difference between 4.5 hours and 12 hours. And I'd be fascinated to know how, as you know, a little bit as a segue from us doing extreme triathlons, which required a support team, Joe's definitely going to have needed a support team to get him through that race. So I'd love to know how he got. So if you're watching, Joe.
Well, someone actually sent me a funny message after this and said, that's pretty much like 3 Ironman World Championship best bike splits in one race. Kind of, more or less. I mean, that is incredible riding just off the bat.
Yeah, we should have actually figured that out, shouldn't we? 43k an hour, so should have done the maths to figure out what that is, and it's a fast time.
Yeah, but I mean, we're excited to watch Joe get back to running and seeing if he can carry this form through.
So now on to race news, and not that busy a calendar this weekend, but first up, an event here in Europe. It's Ironman 70.3 Gdynia that still had a very strong field, most notable indeed because we had reigning Ironman 70.3 champion Jan Frodeno, well, essentially blitzing the field. He led from gun to tape and absolutely destroyed the existing course record, which was held by none other than American Tim O'Donnell, so not a slouch in any way. So Jan came home 8 minutes faster than that time to take the win in 3 hours and 39 minutes, which is very fast racing indeed. Second place went to Maurice Clavel, and third place went to Mickey Tagholt from Denmark.
I almost wonder whether Jan's trying to scare a few competitors ahead of 70.3 was. Anyway, over in the women's race, it was Amelia Watkinson that, well, she absolutely dominated as well. Yeah. Not far off leading the swim out. She wasn't the first up, but very close to that. And then pretty much dominated the bike. She put in a big advantage over the rest of the competitors during that bike phase. Although she did crash on one of the descents. So you will see finishing shots of her with blood going down her nose. She then also posted a very quick run split to take a win in, well, almost 9 minutes clear of second place, which went to Lisa Huttler, and then in third, good friend of the channel, Susie Cheetham.
Now moving over to Asia, because we had another big event there in the form of Ironman 70.3 Philippines in Cebu. Now this has been often well attended by lots of top pros, because I think the organisation really does their best to treat them like kings over there, so always got a good field, and this year was no exception. Now in the men's race we had a very dominating affair with former Ironman 70.3 world champion Tim Reed taking the win, but to do so he took an enormous lead into T2 with a very strong bike ride, 6-minute lead into T2 over a very well established group of athletes, the likes of Trenzo Bozzoni, Luke McKenzie, Tim Burkell, even defending champion Mauricio Mendez from Mexico, but he then later pulled out actually. But this paved the way for Tim to essentially take his 4th victory in Cebu. He likes those conditions a lot, but almost lost all of that 6-minute lead with hard charging Mike Phillips from New Zealand coming through with fastest run split of the day to take second, and third place went to fellow Aussie Tim Van Burkell.
Yeah, now over in the women's race, it was actually Caroline Stefan that was back at this race, having won it 5 times before and made it her 6th win there, only taking a slight hiatus for the birth of her son. So very impressive race from her, and she was very dominating over the course. But as you touched on with the hot and humid conditions, just to put it all in perspective, Caroline Stefan had the fastest run split of the day and ran a 1:34.55 half marathon. So really not that impressive, but she was still 2 minutes clear of the next fastest run of the day. Dimitri Lee Duke came in second, and then Courtney Gilfillan rounded the podium out with third. Well, now a chance to take a look through all your lovely photos that you've been sending in to us. And to start things off this week, we have one from Ricardo, sent from Santa Cruz in California.
Nice place that.
Yeah.
I went there once.
A little bit jealous. Now he has got a very nice photo here, stood with his Cervelo P3 2019 edition on a very nice part of the coastline.
It's just a great picture, full stop. Thanks for sending it, Ricardo. But I mean, I like this one, I think, because as you guys might have seen in earlier videos this year, I got to use one of the P3s that we had here at the channel, and it's a great bike. It's just a really nice time trial bike, and I can see why you've decided to build one up as nicely as you've done.
Well, yeah, they seem incredibly proud of it. They've sent us through a few modifications they've made to it. So they put the tri-rig handlebars on there with the brakes. They've got a bottle holder, E-tap derailleurs, envy wheels, and interestingly a dash saddle. Now the dash saddles we don't see all that often, but seem to be quite popular by the people that use them. So they're quite almost like a minimalist design to them, a little bit of leather on the top, but very interesting design to them indeed. So yeah, as they said, pretty aero setup for a non-integrated bike. Very
yeah,
nice.
I mean, I think you've done a really nice job there of making that. I mean, I hate to use the term superbike, but I've just used it.
Next photo comes from Jan Otto, and this one's from Norway. So we've just come back from Norway, so I wonder whether we did seem to have a fair few Norwegian photos coming.
Yeah, I think you've had a little bit of a trickle-down effect on what's happening in our uploader, Mark, because of Norseman. But yeah, this is, I think, is it sunset that's happening in the background there.
Yeah.
Short evening ride with a beautiful sunset.
And they said, I mean, I'm probably going to absolutely butcher the pronunciation of this, but Toisva. Anyway, I've whacked it into Google, and it's just outside of Haugesund, which is where I've raced before, where it's now the Ironman Haugesund, I believe, or it used to be Ironman 70.3 Haugesund. So yeah, it's now just an age group only race, but they used to have a pro race there.
Just on the southwest, is that right?
Yeah, it's quite south, I guess, as Norwegian coastline goes.
Yeah, which is still pretty north for the vast majority of us here in Europe.
But a lovely bike there. Next photo comes from Ahmad Sahir. This is their S-Works Shiv. This is in Langkawi in Malaysia. And they've just been doing their 70.3 simulation ride. For the event coming up in October. So they've got a little bit of time to spare yet. Yeah, love to know what that simulation ride is, so do send that through. And then we've got another one from Breeze, and this is their Canyon Speedmax CFSLX. And this is from the middle of nowhere, they say. It's in Jepara in Indonesia. So yeah, they've got
basically, yeah, all my training indoors, 6-hour ride on Zwift and 3-hour run on the treadmill, question mark. I'm not sure if that's you asking us whether you think that's a good idea or whether that's what you've just done, but I'm impressed if you have done that, but it's a really nice looking setup to do it on if that's what you're planning.
Well, yeah, and they said they're prepping for Ironman Malaysia where they hope to get their Kona slot. Well, and as you can see in front of them, they have Kona printed out and a nice picture of some palm trees and the nice coastline.
Yeah, I do like that when people decide to have front and center in their training location, they decide to put their inspiration or their goal or whatever it might be. It's a nice idea.
Well, we hope we see you out there at some point, Brees. But do please keep sending in all your photos using our photo uploader. Oh, apparently there's one more.
We have got one more, yes. We've got one from Roch, and Roch has been at the Super League Enduro event in Ottawa, which was a couple weekends ago now, I think. But a rather cool picture of them just getting used to the swim, bike, run format of an enduro. So practicing diving in and out off of a pontoon, presumably before the race started. So yeah, I just thought it was something a little bit different from our usual long course affairs.
Very exciting racing, yeah. And as I was saying, please do send in all your lovely photos, pain caves, diving in, racing shots, whatever it is, using a photo uploader. The link's just below. Well, now time for the GTN Caption Competition. Your chance to win one of these caps. Now, last week's photo was from one of the Xterra races. I think it was the European Championship.
It was in Czech Republic,
Now, we had, I've forgotten the athlete's name now. It was one of the brothers.
brothers, yeah. And Felix.
Let's start this again. But we had loads of great captions, a particularly amazing caption came in from Savage Poe actually saying, preparing for a jaw-dropping personal best, yawn. Brilliant.
Yeah, good one. But I mean, second up here we've got Bike and Dog Trips has said, just can't see some flies for race protein.
But the winner of this week's caption comp comes in from Andy Turnbull. He says, yawn, I could beat these guys in my sleep. So yeah, you are the winner. Get in touch over Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, and we'll ping one of these caps over to you. But for this week's caption comp photo, it is of Griales. Is that how you say his name, Fraser? You're pretty good on them.
Grijales, I think. Cristiano Grijales.
Now, he's a bit of a celeb over in Mexico, isn't he?
Triathlon is a big sport in Mexico. I did weight race. Anyway, but yeah, it is definitely a country that takes their triathlon very seriously. So he is, this is the Pan Am Games, which is a couple of weeks ago in Lima in Peru, that's where Heather's on holiday, isn't it? Oh, so it is.
I wonder if she caught any
of those. Cristiano, he won this event, so if she spotted him doing that, then that would have been a good race to watch.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's obviously got a very enthusiastic transition style going on. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how he's gonna. I mean, if that's him mounting his bike, then that is some serious gym work he's been doing.
Yeah, well, please do drop your captions in the comment section below. Well, that's it for the show this week. Don't forget to enter the poll and let us know what you think on the whole cheating topic. We've got loads of stuff coming up on the channel this week. We've got a fantastic comparison between the two bikes of Cameron Worth and Andy Bochra, two of the, well, best cyclists in the long distance realm of triathlon. So really looking forward to seeing that one from you.
Yeah, they were, I'm not gonna lie, rather nice bikes, the pair of them, Mark. It was an interesting week in Roth, and another video that I filmed when we were out there was some race week run workouts. So did that down there on the famous canal that is the run course in Roth, so keep an eye out for that one.
Yeah, now if you did like today's show, do hit that thumbs up button. If you'd like to see more from GTN, you can click on the globe and subscribe to the channel. We've also got a great video on how to prevent plantar fasciitis and all about that unfortunate foot injury, so you can see that by clicking just down here.
Yeah, and then another really good video in our open water swim series, just an open water swim session, you can find that here.